So now that you've heard them screaming inside a gas chamber, has it influenced your perspective a little bit?
And you mentioned about your checkered past. It's something obviously with the media attention that's been well documented. So I imagine that you don't want to be judged on that. You'd rather be judged on what you're doing now. So can you understand why people have a problem with you judging meat eaters for their choices that are being made? I've made bad choices yourself.
Yeah, of course, which is why I approach this in a non-judgmental way.
That's not entirely true though, is it? You have made comments in the past about farmers, that there was Nazi comments before that you've made.
Oh yeah, in the past I've made comments about,
Do you still hold those beliefs now?
No, the thing is my advocacy has evolved, and I always make a point of this in my speeches. I want to preemptively say that I used to eat animals probably more than anyone else here. Now, I was also committing conscious acts of violence when I was involved with this, this gang scene. So I'm the last one to judge anyone, but I'm just here to share the truth with you. The last thing I want to do is look down on people for participating in something that they're unaware of. The main thing I want to get through to people is that once you become aware of this, you then become consciously complicit in it, okay? And that's when we have an obligation to change. I don't want people to focus on my past, because my past is completely irrelevant. If I was speaking up for child abuse, for domestic violence against women, would people be saying, oh, you don't have a right to speak up for that because you have a checkered past? I mean, it's completely irrelevant to what I'm speaking about.
I suppose the difference is that's against the law, whereas eating meat isn't against the law. And do you think that'll ever change? I mean, Are you fighting a losing battle?
Well, there are many things that used to be legal that weren't moral. Legality is different to morality. Some places it's legal to slaughter and kill dogs for food. Human slavery was legal in America for 400 years. Just because something isn't against the law does not make it any more or less moral.
I mean, it's just very disturbing to think that your food has screamed for their life, begged for mercy in a gas chamber. I mean, if that doesn't disturb the majority of the population, I don't know what does.
When you show people images of what happens inside of these places, most sane, rational, compassionate people do not want to participate in it. They don't want the flesh of an animal who's suffered or, struggled for their last breath decomposing in their bowel. We don't want to see animals get torn apart with a knife and then, consume their flesh. This is just not in our nature. We like fruits, we like vegetables. Show a child a slaughterhouse, they would not think that's food.
I mean, I personally am not a vegan. I am going vegan for the purpose of this documentary. Does it make you feel uncomfortable to be around people that aren't vegan? I mean, currently I am wearing leather shoes. Is this something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable to know that I am wearing leather shoes and talking to you now?
Uncomfortable?
Yeah, or what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I understand that we live in a non-vegan world, okay? I get discomfort when I walk through the shopping aisle and I see pieces of animal bodies, so like the leg that was severed off of a baby lamb, and it's wrapped up and there's still blood coming out of it, and people can look at that and they can see food. That's how cleverly they've been, advertised to and programmed to believe that a leg of a baby is food. Now, I know your shoes, there might be leather, or your clothes might have wool in there from a animal that's gone through immense suffering. That doesn't make me as uncomfortable as it should make the individual wearing the skin of an animal that suffered uncomfortable.
So does it make me a bad person then? Because obviously, studying with you now, we think we've got a bit of a rapport, we're having a decent conversation, but does it make me a bad person in your eyes to know that I would still happily wear the leather shoes and not eating meat at the moment, but have done for the rest of my life?
Okay, so I don't think people who aren't vegan are bad people, because that would be a ridiculous claim, because they are unaware of what's going on. And even though they're eating the flesh of animals right there, smack bang on their plate, they've been taught lies. They've been told that it's humane slaughter.
And we're fed lies by the industry that this is somehow humane. We're fed this free-range organic lie. Free-range animals go into the same gas-chambered hellholes that these animals go into. So
they've been told that somehow animals happily, give up their life for us, that they've been put here for us to eat, that it's we're compromising our health if we don't eat flesh. Okay, so we've been taught this from a young age, so I understand that. But I think when people witness something like a gas chamber, or witness animals being shot in the head and slashed across the throat, or they witness the horror of the dairy industry where cows are bellowing out for days for their stolen children and being exploited for their breast milk, I think when you become aware of all of this and the destruction it's doing to the environment, I think you have to question your own morality there and say, okay, I'm consciously committing an unnecessary act of violence against innocent beings for an unjustifiable reason.
It's alright, sweetie. They're so young and you can see that they've already suffered so much in their eyes. They look very sad, very scared. 5 or 6 months old they are. Yeah, sometimes 7 months, but around that age. So, you know, just, yeah, infants really, like puppy dogs.
People, I think, are just detached from the idea that the animal actually understands what's going on. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, I can't comment on it until I've seen it, but personally, I can't see that myself. I can't see the consciousness.
So they might not know exactly what's going to happen to them, okay, but you can see the sadness, the fear and the suffering on their faces, okay. They don't know what's truly about to happen, but they know it's not good. You know, we all understand that our pets at home, they have their own personalities. They get sad, hungry, tired, scared. You know, they sort of tell you what they want without using human language. Pigs are no different in that respect. I mean, pigs have been ranked higher in intelligence. Chickens have been ranked fairly high in intelligence. Cows, there's no difference in the way they suffer, feel pain and want to live to a dog. So we treat dogs with the respect that they deserve, but for some reason, and I know what the reason is, we've been trained to think these certain species of animals don't matter. They're dumb. They don't think for themselves. They don't want to live. They're food animals. But dogs and cats and monkeys and elephants and dolphins, they matter morally, so we should treat them with respect.
I mean, do you really think that's true in terms of people think that these animals are dumb? Because I think it's well known, isn't it, that pigs are intelligent animals. I suppose people are detached from the idea that these animals are being killed for their food. I mean, I'm not sure whether that's entirely true, and I feel like maybe you're being wrapped up in your own stigma of what this is.
Well, maybe because you said that, well, you're not entirely convinced that they know what's going on, that they're fully conscious and aware of stuff. I'd have to contest that, and that's why I contested that with the fact that pigs are highly intelligent. They play video games. Scientists have done many studies with them. They know what's up. And until you witness them, you know, yourself before they go into these places, it's pretty hard to have like a solid, you know, statement like they don't know what's going on. So if you listen to those screams and still feel like eating bacon or pork, then I seriously cannot get through to you. But the ones who listen to this, and could picture their dog in there or picture themselves in there and see how horrific this would be for those animals, when you're in the supermarket, skip past the meat aisle, because it's places like this that it's coming from. Yeah, I am wrapped up in this emotionally, because if you'd seen what I'd seen, you probably would be too. But I understand a lot of people, you know, majority of people come from a place of innocent ignorance. So not willful ignorance, they just don't know, they just haven't seen things. So that's why I educate people first. Now there is a certain percentage of people that don't want to hear it. They don't want their dinner to be spoiled. They want to completely shut their eyes to the atrocity that they're complicit in. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why people would rather be ignorant to willfully ignorant. I mean, deliberately not looking at something that they've got blood on their hands for. That's something I don't understand.
You work here, dear? How long you worked here for? Been here for a year? Yeah. What do you think of it?
Alright. So, job in it.
It's a good job, eh? Get money. It's good money.
Yeah, good hours.
Still eat pork? You still eat it? Doesn't turn you off at all?
Nah, not really.
And in terms of farmers, I've already mentioned the comments you made in the past, and you said that you don't stand by those comments anymore. You understand the business side of it, I suppose.
I guess you'd have to be specific on the comment.
Well, in terms of the Nazi comments, in terms of just as bad as Nazis, farmers for what they're doing. Those comments. I mean, obviously there are YouTube videos that I know you've taken a few down before in the past as well.
Yeah. I've removed videos now. My advocacy has changed. My delivery of the message has changed. I understand this message has to be delivered in a certain way. Now, for me to say, I think I said Hitler lives in the hearts and minds of every slave-owning, rapist, animal-abusing farmer. Now, the reason I made that statement is because I was quite angry at the state of what was happening to animals. Now, if you look at things from the animal's perspective, now they are being sexually violated against their will. They're having a fish shoved into their anus. They're being artificially inseminated against their will, without their permission. They're having their children.
Well, this is one of your statements that you make quite regularly. I mean, do you really believe that this is what you say, sexual harassment, rape, slavery? Do you really believe that? Or is that you just saying that because you want to?
Well, 100% I'm saying that. Like, if that was a dog being sexually violated against their will, having things prodded into their private parts, they have not given anyone consent to touch them there. Now, if
they can't give consent, though, can they?
Exactly.
So
exactly, they cannot give consent. So, like a small child cannot give consent, and there's something called statutory rape or pedophilia. Child cannot rationalise or give consent for a sexual act. Neither can these poor animals. So that's
the difference is that a child can communicate. This animal can't communicate with you in any way.
Yeah, they can. They can show you that they don't want their privates to be touched. I mean, they hold cows down in a rack so they don't move, because they don't want to be touched down there. That's obvious. So
is it not for the safety of the animal for them to be held down? In terms of if they were thrashing around, they could injure a human, they could injure themselves.
Well, why are the humans even sticking their hand inside of a cow's anus anyway?
It's the demand, isn't it?
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with the safety of the animals. It's got nothing.
The safety of the animals is always important, because the farmers.
But that is not their main priority. Safety of the animals is only their priority as far as it's good for their business. Okay, so their main priority.
I would argue with that, though. I think a lot of farmers believe that they take good care of their animals and they have a lot of love for their animals, and they.
Well, they can say that all they like, but the fact is they wouldn't be using those animals for their body if it wasn't for profit. That's the bottom line. Profit is the bottom line. They don't want to damage their cargo. Okay, they're not looking at these animals like, hey, they're sentient beings that deserve moral respect, because they wouldn't be stealing their children off them, killing the boys at a fraction of their lifespan, using the mothers until there's nothing left of them, and then bolt gunning them in the head and chopping them up for steak. Where is the care in that? No care whatsoever. The care is what their bank accounts are being filled with. Now, the reason I made the statement about farmers being like Nazis is because that's okay from our perspective. We're human beings, we're not being oppressed. But from the animal's perspective, what would they think? What would the animal think if they're being forcibly bred, rounded up, sent on these extermination trucks to these, gas chambers, or getting a bolt gun in their head? In their eyes, what are human beings to them? So you can look at it from your lens, that's fine. Look at it through the eyes of the victim. This is how we see issues of injustice. So that's why I made the statement. But the reason I don't stand by the statement is because I understand something. I understand that farmers have been indoctrinated into a farming culture. A lot of people only see the pieces of the animal in the supermarket. They see this chops and legs and stuff like that. They don't see the living animal. This is what they've been brought up with. They don't know no other way. They don't think what they're doing is wrong. Now, someone like me comes along and says, hey, what are you doing to that animal? Get your hand out of them, leave them alone. You're violating that animal's rights. They're freaking out. They're going, well, what have I ever done? We've done this forever. We've always done this. So I can understand from their perspective, they're probably going, wow, what's up? But the thing is, we shouldn't be looking at it completely from their perspective. We look at it from the perspective of the ones who are on the way here. Now, we're brought up eating pigs and caring about dogs. So if we put the dogs in the position of the pigs,
that's one of them. I think if we brought up eating dogs like the Chinese, I don't think it's
It's like food chain,
It's one of them, and it desensitised or whatever.
Yeah. The food chain?
Yeah.
Do you think Chinese eating dogs is the food chain as well, or?
Kinda, yeah.
So, do you think it'll ever change? Do you think there'll ever be? I mean, farming's been around for thousands of years. It's been a
traditional thing.
It's a traditional practice in not just the UK, around the world.
Yeah.
Do you think it's ever going to change? Do you think?
I'll tell you right now, bro. This is not going away. While these animals are going to these places, while they're being treated as property and used for their bodies against their will, this is not going away. This is growing. This is multiplying. It's growing exponentially because people are waking up. Okay, so farmers have to work that out and go, okay, they're waking up to what we're doing to animals. We're going to have to change what we're farming. We're going to have to do something else. The thing is, you're just doing your job. You're making your money, but I think when the consumers pay for the flesh, they're the ones putting you guys in, jobs like this. If everyone wanted to eat, plant-based food, you'd probably be working in a plant-based job, wouldn't you? You just want to get your cash and go home. Either way, it's completely irrelevant what the farmers do. Farmers will follow demand. So when there's more vegans, they'll buy the plant products. They're not going to want the product of suffering, cruelty, and slavery. Okay, and I don't use that word lightly. It is slavery. They have no liberty. These animals have got numbers, tags, ear tags, and they're only good for the farmer as far as profit goes.
I find it really difficult to accept the word slavery and rape. I think a lot of people, not myself included, a lot of people would find offence to that. People would find.
Why?
Well, I mean, obviously, people get raped consistently around the world all the time.
Yeah.
There are many African
They're rape
Americans.
victims. They're rape victims as well.
Of
Yeah,
course. There were many African Americans that went through hundreds of years of slavery.
Yeah,
and many
of course.
many Africans that went through hundreds of years of slavery.
Yeah.
So people would
Horrible.
find that really offensive.
Well, it's immoral, isn't it? Slavery is
Of course
immoral.
it is, yes.
And why does it change? Because the victim's different.
I don't think it changes in terms of the victims different. I think it changes because of the victims. Well, you say victims. I personally wouldn't say victims because
You don't think animals are victims?
I don't think they're victims of what you're saying, unfortunately, because
So they're not victims in your eyes?
animals can be victims of cruelty, but I don't think they're victims of rape and slavery in terms of.
Okay, so what would you call it when an animal is forcibly inseminated against their will?
I don't think there's a way of measuring their will. That's the issue. I don't think there's a way of measuring.
So you don't think an animal has a will to live?
I think animals, of course, have a will to live. I
Okay,
mean,
so how do you measure that?
You want to measure it against their characteristics and their behaviour, but it's because of the animal kingdom, isn't it? I mean, that happens all the time.
That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what happens in the animal kingdom. You know, are you gonna
But we live in the animal kingdom, don't we?
What are you gonna navigate your moral compass about what guided by what happens in the animal kingdom? So you're gonna act in a way a lion does because animal kingdom though. Now we have moral agency. We know right from wrong. Now we can test an animal's will by the fact that they avoid a knife in the throat. They avoid a fist in their anus. Okay, they avoid these things. Now we can see that the animal doesn't want us to do this to them. They want to live in peace and harmony and be happy, just like your dog at home does. Okay. Now how do we measure your dog's will to live? How do we measure your dog's will not to be touched in an inappropriate way? Okay, they put their tail between their legs and they say stop it in their own way. Now, what makes animal slavery any different to human slavery, except they're a different species? What makes it any different?
Well, I suppose it's not for my position to argue with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living in this vegan diet now. I mean, I'm still only in the first early stages of it, in the first couple of days,
Yeah.
so it's hard to see how it goes. But I have found myself there are a lot of alternatives. I found that it's not been too difficult for me to make meals.
Yeah.
So is that the message that you're trying to spread? You're trying to spread that it's an easy transition.
When we have alternatives, okay, we have alternatives to skin from an animal, we have alternatives to flesh, we have alternatives to stolen breast milk. It becomes unjustifiable. It's easy to look at things through the eyes of human beings. You know, I've never been oppressed, okay, but things look a lot differently through the eyes of a mother cow who's had their calf stolen and is on the way to a slaughterhouse after a life of misery. Now, you might say, you know, on the farm that I get my milk from, they treat their animals really well. You tell that to the mourning mother who's just lost her child, okay, and that will be killed when the farmer doesn't want them. That will be killed. None of these animals get out alive. None of them do. Now, where is the justice in that?
Well, I mean, I don't argue that there isn't alternatives, because there is easy alternatives to a lot of the B12, for example. I obviously want to question you on that, but I know you can get that an alternative, plant-based alternatives. Yeah. But there isn't. The science is very contradictory around it. If you want to find something to back up your point, you can find something to back up your point, regardless of what your point is. So I feel that until the science is advanced, how do you know what the best is?
Well, I'd say that it's pretty much consensus that saturated fat and cholesterol cause atherosclerosis. Now, if you want to find a study put out by the Egg Board, funded by the Egg Society, that, you know, eggs are healthy, you'd have to see where the money's coming from. The dairy industry fund their own studies. Okay, a lot of these big industries fund their own studies. Now, yeah, there is conflicting science in the health arena, but the majority of science, if you look at it through unbiased and it's not been funded by either side, the scientists aren't vegan that are coming up with these studies. You know, you can draw your conclusion from there. But health aside.
Before you carry on, alternatively to that, a lot of the research that comes out about veganism will be by vegans. So by your own phrase there, it's
vegan scientists doing vegan studies.
Well, there will be studies that are done by vegans themselves.
Now, the thing about a peer-reviewed journal is, but for science to be accepted, okay, it has to be reviewed by everyone. So everyone that are specialised in that certain field will review the science, and then it will go into a peer-reviewed journal. It's unbiased, because there's non-vegans, people that eat meat and dairy, going, okay, yeah, this study was done correctly, yeah, we can include that in the journal. So that's why you have to use real science, not articles written by vegans, not articles written by Mr. I Love Eggs. The science is on our side in terms of health. It is. I mean, you can look into it yourself. People at home can look into it. ethics is irrefutable, because unless you would agree that it's okay to do this to any other animal, dogs, elephants, rhinoceroses, human beings of the same level of sentience as animals, then you've created a massive contradiction. We're saying it's okay for these animals, it's not okay for us though. Nah, don't treat us like that. Don't take away our liberty, don't take away our rights, treat us with respect, don't rape us, don't kill us, don't enslave us, but we'll do that to billions and trillions of other animals every year because we like the taste of sandwiches. It's ridiculous.
So now that you've heard them screaming inside a gas chamber, has it influenced your perspective a little bit?
It's a bit of a weird sensation. I don't feel an outpouring of emotion. I'm sort of processing it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, do you think that, you know, most human beings, after witnessing what goes on in here, or even, you know, hearing their screams, would happily go to the supermarket and go, yep, I want to put that flesh inside of my stomach?
I don't think a lot of people would.
Yeah.
No. I think that a lot of the issue is to do with routine.
Yeah.
And I feel like personally, for myself, that would be
Habit.
the biggest issue in terms of routine. And hearing this itself is not a nice thing to hear.
Yeah.
I said to you that your demeanour changed. I'm sure you.
Yeah. It has a lot.
Well, so.
And like, I think because you've built up this habitual way of living for so long, you can see why we use tactics like this to snap people out of it, because people need a big wake-up call, you know, and it's a very urgent thing. So we need to get this truth out as fast as we can, so that people go, okay, now I can see it from your perspective, now I can see why you're so passionate about it, now I can see why you call them prisoners, why you call it slavery, why people say it's a Holocaust, why they say it's murder, you know. I don't think they deserve to be stabbed to death and eaten, I don't know. Even if they don't adopt the lifestyle, to at least see it from the perspective of the animals, so they can make a decision based on that, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird feeling having to listen to it. It's strange.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason they're in there is because people want to eat their bodies. There's no other reason. People pay to eat their bodies. That's why they're going through that. So the slaughterhouse workers in there, I'm sure they want to work somewhere else, eh? I'm sure they don't want to smell pig feces and listen to screams all day and play around with pig guts and blood all day. But
I'll try to make a living out of it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, that's what I don't think people who work in slaughterhouses are. There's probably is bad people that work in slaughterhouses, but they're not all bad. I mean, you get bad people everywhere, wherever you go. But they're doing that on behalf of consumers. Okay, people are paying for flesh and forcing workers into these horrific conditions. You know, we can leave today. We can leave today. The workers have to keep coming back here to make a living. The animals, there's no leaving for them. They leave chopped up into pieces. So, I just want people to have perspective. You know, that type of perspective.
Finally, what is next for you personally? I know you travel a lot to a lot of these different vigils. What is next for the veganism activism as a whole?
We're going to keep going hard. We're going to keep going hard until the very end. Now, the people that I inspire through my journey are going to keep going hard too. The people that all the other activists inspire through their journey, we're creating activists. Okay, so this isn't going away. Even if I die, get run over by a slaughterhouse truck, my legacy lives on, and so does every single activist that's out here too. Their legacy lives on as well. This isn't going away until it ends. The same thing with if there were humans going through injustice right here, right before your very eyes, it wouldn't go away till that injustice ends, because there's always going to be people that are speaking up against it.
Gotta make a change. It's time for us as a people to start making some changes. Let's change the way we eat, let's change the way we live, and let's change the way we treat each other. You see, the old way wasn't working, so it's on us to do what we gotta do to survive. And still I see no change.